Hey, what's good, everyone? It's South Street Post. How you all doing? And welcome to an episode of Chatterbox. Today, I'm joined by my main man, Ronan Mullen. What's going on, mate?
Sal, how are you? Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. Joining me today. What's your week been like? Busy?
Well, it's good to have the Champions League back, isn't it? I know the round of 16 didn't really deliver for the neutral fans as much as anything, but the first round of fixtures there on Tuesday were pretty entertaining. And then Europa League obviously has interest for the English teams. United have a winnable game on paper, you'd like to think, and then Arsenal similarly, although their recent form would suggest Slavia Prague will be no pushover, but it could very well be an all-English final in that competition as well. So European football's shaping up, and then the Euros as well. Everyone's talking England squad, and there's plenty of debates to be had there too, I'd say.
Yeah, how do you see the English team faring in Champions League? Obviously, Liverpool lost yesterday. They got the away goal. I would say usually Liverpool could do it, but without the fans, I think the fans are a big aspect to Liverpool getting through usually. I mean, against Barcelona a year or so ago, the fans pulled them through, I thought. And I think it's going to be a difficult tie for them now. I think they could go out. I think Man City have the best chance. How are your feelings on that?
100% agree. I think if it's a packed Anfield and it's rocking, it's a whole different ball game. That Barcelona tie you referenced, that looked done and dusted after the first leg. That was 3-0. Liverpool didn't even get an away goal that night. And yet, this isn't the Real Madrid team of yore. You know, this isn't the same team that bossed the Champions League for a few years on the bench there. And yet, you look at that midfield on paper with Kroos and Modric and Casemiro, and you think they might be slightly over the hill, and there wasn't a bit about it last night. They ran the game. And Zidane, I'm certainly one of those people, I don't know if you agree, where I didn't give him much credit over the years. It always felt like he was a good facilitator as a manager. He got the stars playing. He kept them on the same page almost, but just let them go out and do their thing. But he hasn't got Ronaldo anymore. He hasn't got Gareth Bale anymore. Ramos was missing last night. Varane was missing last night. And they were just really slick, really fluid, and played Liverpool off the pitch. I'd say Liverpool, when it's all said and done, 3-1 isn't a bad result given the way that game went, and they'll be reasonably confident that they could eke out a 2-0 win at Anfield and go through. I have to say, I think Madrid showed enough last night to suggest that won't happen.
Yeah, I feel the same. If it was 2-1, it might have been a different story, but when it went 3-1, I feel that with the players coming back for Real Madrid, I feel like they can hold it. Probably might lose the game, but I don't think they'll lose by 2 clear goals. I think they'll get a goal at Anfield with the defence. Liverpool's defence this season hasn't been great. Obviously, they're missing Virgil van Dijk, Gomez, etc. I feel like they might have a problem there, and I think they could go out, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're feeling about it.
Man City, like Dortmund again, this isn't the same Dortmund team we saw get to the Champions League final under Klopp, and they still have some stars. Marco Reus, obviously, but Erling Haaland is the talk of the town, and City made hard work of that last night. You know, Dortmund obviously without Jadon Sancho, and Man United fans obviously very familiar, but he was missing. It was Jude Bellingham was the English player who really starred last night alongside Phil Foden for Man City. So that's an interesting tie. I wouldn't rule out Dortmund getting through in that when it goes back to Germany next week.
I was a bit shocked by the way Dortmund played, because I've been watching Dortmund closely this year. Obviously losing to Frankfurt at the weekend, and they're not doing great. It goes to show you that there's quality out there in Europe, and you can't count these teams out. When they play against Man City, I thought they were going to steamroller Dortmund yesterday. I thought it'd be 2 or 3-0, but when I saw the result, they're not out of that. At home, obviously it won't be a packed stadium, but I feel like they got a chance as well. To be honest, I think the English teams have left themselves a lot to do. So I think the best chance this season is Man City, but they've got a tough game coming up away from home against Dortmund. But I do see them getting through, just in my opinion. Let's take it on to the Europa League. I want to talk a little bit about United. Bit crazy at the moment in the United fan base. So many different opinions, so many different sectors. Ole in, Ole out. What are your feelings on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer?
I was just talking to my friend about this yesterday, who's avid Man United fan, and talking about, it was funny, it was actually because Toni Kroos was running the game for Real Madrid last night, and David Moyes had allegedly done a deal for Toni Kroos to join the summer after Moyes joined, and Van Gaal came in and nixed that deal and signed all manner of duds in the meantime. And then Van Gaal, there was some bright spots. You know, it was altogether more forgettable football, I would say, not the Manchester United way, in terms of it was quite passive possession football, and people they fell out of love with him ultimately, even though he won the FA Cup. Similarly, Mourinho, it was winning football, it was cutthroat football. That first season was good, where they got the 2 trophies, but in terms of long-term progress, you just couldn't see it, and that ultimately ebbed away. Solskjaer, for all his knockers, you have to say the squad is in as strong a position as it's been since Alex Ferguson left. This is the first year. This is the first time Man United have made the Champions League places in successive seasons since Ferguson left. So that points to stability. I know fans want a trophy, and he could deliver the Europa League. I'd say United are favourites for that competition, but they were last year too and didn't get the job done. So I think in terms of copper fastening his position, I know a contract is rumored to be on the table, but he would in his own mind want a trophy to be able to say, right, as we finished second, we pushed City relatively close and then fell away. Ultimately, when the going got tough, United showed they weren't quite ready for it, and City basically ran away with the league. But if they can get a trophy and finish second, I think that does point to progress, and Solskjaer will have earned a second bite at the cherry almost with a second contract. It's a tough one. Like I can see both sides of the argument. Where is Solskjaer the man that's going to get Man United back to winning Champions Leagues and winning Premier Leagues? Probably not. But you have to say he's got them pointing in the right direction, and for that reason, he deserves more time, in my opinion. So I don't know what you think on all that.
I think offering him a new contract right now might be a bit of a mistake. I thought I would have waited to the end of the season. I remember when he first took charge of United, we were doing really well. As soon as he signed that contract, we started going downhill. I just think, keep him on his toes a little bit. Wait till the end of the season. I would expect him to win the Europa League. I want him to win the Europa League. I was disappointed about the FA Cup. Felt like if we got through that game, we had Southampton in the semi-final, which we've just beaten 9-0. It would have been not an easy passage to the final, but a winnable passage to the final. And who knows in the final, And I felt like the team just don't have that winning mentality when the pressure is on. They just don't seem to get over the line. Whether that's coaching, whether that's a winning mentality, I don't know. But as soon as things get a little bit more relaxed, they start winning again. This is why I feel like we're second, because we're not really challenging. We're cozy at the moment in seconds. We're just winning games, no pressure. But I feel like when pressure's on, the team seem to crumble a little bit. I don't know about you, and I don't know what the reasons are for that, but maybe they need to win a trophy just to get that little bit of winning mentality that, because winning is an addiction, just like losing, it's a habit, and, we need to win one trophy at least, just win one trophy, and who knows from there. Do you feel like this team lack a winning mentality, lack a leader, for example, someone to bring them through, like we used to have Roy Keane, of course, players such of that ilk? Do you think we've got that type of player to get us through these games?
It's funny, obviously Harry Maguire is the captain by default. It was almost Ashley Young had the armband for a while, and then his move sort of precipitated a change, and Maguire ultimately got the armband. But I think Bruno Fernandes is the leader of that team, and I don't think anyone could question his leadership credentials. Like, the man's a born winner, and you're right. I think United need more than one of those in the team. Like, you look at that forward unit, are they killers up there? As much as I'm a fan of Rashford and Greenwood and Martial to a lesser extent, are they the lads that are they going to grind out a 1-0 win and get a dirty goal at the front post away from home? Do you know what I mean? I'm just not sure about that yet. Greenwood got his first headed goal of his career, if I'm not mistaken, there against Brighton, and you want to see him getting more of them types of goals. But
yeah, I feel like he should be number 9 myself. I feel like he should be playing up front.
That's why I'm not sure. Like Haaland, I think you were saying you watch lots of Dortmund, and he's an absolute must-have. But at the same time, if United somehow get in a position to be able to get him, you're definitely blocking the pathway for Mason Greenwood, because I'm not sure he's ever going to be an elite wide player. But as you said, he's got that nose for a goal, and he could be a brilliant number 9 in the long term. And if you sign Haaland, it's like a slide. United kind of have to make a decision on that. But just on the wider point of recruitment, like, Greenwood finished the season so strong, and the whole United front three were good towards the end of last season, plus Fernandes, and you thought if they can do that again next season, United will be knocking on the door for the title. Hasn't quite panned out like that. Like, none of the front lads have really delivered the goals to the rate you would have expected, and that's why I have some sympathy for Solskjaer, because, you know, rumours and sources, but I think it's on good authority that he identified the right-hand side of the attack as a must need to strengthen that position. And Jadon Sancho was obviously the guy that was touted for that. And United didn't deliver for him. Like, they brought in Ahmad, who looks like a decent prospect. Pellistri, who might never see first-team football. We're just not sure about that. Cavani, I like Cavani, but like, it was a bit of a panic buy when it's all said and done. So United need to improve the first 11. If you look at the players who came in last summer, I think on paper they're all decent players. Tellez, very good option at left back. Luke Shaw's just having the season of his career. Donny van de Beek, I think, will come good if he gets time. Whether he gets time at Man United, I'm not sure, but he's a good player. But are these the players that are going to take United to the next level? United need to go out in the summer and get players who can upgrade a position in the team, if you know what I'm saying. They need to get someone who you go, right, he's our new starting player in this position, whether that be centre half. Dean Henderson's probably laid down a marker and said he deserves a chance in goals, but they definitely need an upgrade in goalkeeper. If from what David De Gea has been producing in recent seasons, as great a servant as he's been, you know, is he the modern type of goalkeeper who can dominate his box and play it from the back? I'm just not sure about that. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, big fan, but again, it seems as if the opposition are happy for him to have the ball. When United are in possession, they're almost funneling the ball towards Aaron Wan-Bissaka because they know he's not a threat from that area, and that would be a cause for concern as well. So I think United, they've got a strong squad, but they need to improve the first 11 to really kick on to the next level.
Looks like some work needs to be done, to be honest with you. Bringing it back to Donny van de Beek, do you feel that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has given him a fair run in the team? Is he using him the right way, or do you feel like Ole's tactics, which is primarily counter-attacking football, suit Donny van de Beek, which is why he's not getting into the team?
There seems to be, like, having watched him playing for Ajax, he was a bit of an all-rounder in midfield. You'd see him popping up in the number 6 position, number 8, number 10, whereas it's as if Solskjaer has just decided he's a number 10 or nothing. And I just don't think that's the case. There's no reason, and there've been plenty of games this season where I'm sure you've been frustrated watching Fred and Matic sitting in front of the back four at Old Trafford against lesser opposition, where you must be thinking, why not play Van de Beek alongside one of those guys in a deeper role, and he can pick the passes, keep the ball moving at a quicker tempo. And it was a small thing, but I'm sure United fans noticed it, for that winning goal against Brighton the other day. He made 2 or 3 runs in the space of about 20 seconds beyond the Brighton defence, stretched them out of position. That's what gave Pogba the space on the far side, and then his miss-hit shot obviously led to the goal for Greenwood. Like, I think Van de Beek has a lot more to offer than what he's been given credit for by Solskjaer. I totally understand that Bruno Fernandes is the man and has to play and has to be catered for. Paul Pogba is a magician. He mightn't deliver it regularly enough, but I can understand again why Solskjaer has him higher in the pecking order. But there's no reason why Donny van de Beek has had so few minutes for Man United this season. He's a really effective player. I hope it's not some sort of... I don't think Solskjaer is the type of character where he would do it resentfully, but it's well publicised that Van de Beek wasn't a target for United in the summer. As we mentioned earlier, Solskjaer wanted Sancho, he wanted Grealish, even James Maddison, these kind of players. Van de Beek almost happened out of nowhere. And I think most Man United fans were quite happy when they saw the finances, 35 million for an accomplished Dutch player who's done it in the Champions League. But it just hasn't quite panned out. I would give it another year, though. I think his Man United story is not done quite yet.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir right now in regards to Donny van de Beek. I've been saying for a long time they should try him in the number 6 position in the centre of midfield. He used to play that for Ajax a number of times, box to box from central midfield. I don't know why Ole hasn't tried him there.
And he's busy as well, isn't he? Like, he gets stuck in, he presses the ball. I know he's not the most athletic player in the world, but he puts himself about it. He reminds me a bit of Ander Herrera, but has a bit more end product and a bit more quality on the ball. But he has that sort of feistiness to him that you would think would do well in a number 6 position. So I was drawing parallels earlier in the season where Fabinho came to Liverpool and didn't get a bite of the cherry until the second half of that first season, but then he became a very important player for them. I was kind of hoping that would happen for Van de Beek because I like him as a player, but it just hasn't. And he was unfortunate as well because United had that slate of injuries before the international break where Pogba was injured and Van de Beek got injured at the exact same time. And that would have been his little run in the team and he probably could have put his marker down, but he was quite unfortunate with that one. But if he can finish the season strong, have a telling contribution, like if he can score a winning goal against Granada or something, like just to sort of announce his arrival on the team and then go and have a good Euros and then kick off fresh with United next season, I think that would be the ideal way. You'd hate to see him be sold in the summer and it's just chalked off as one that didn't work out because it's probably not exactly the same thing, but Wilfried Zaha had his run at United and it didn't quite work out and United got rid of him. And you look at it now and you think United could probably be doing him back. And same for Memphis Depay, who wasn't probably mature enough to have an impact on the United team when he joined. But again, he's been linked with Barcelona and Liverpool now this summer. So United probably just need to be a bit more patient with these kinds of talents.
Yeah, I agree. Do you feel like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has his favourites though? He's got this friendship club kind of feeling at United at the moment where he loves McTominay, he loves Matic and Fred. Picking the United team these days, it's like you don't even need to look at the team sheet. You know who he's going to pick. Every week he's going to pick. He'll probably pick the same team tomorrow against Granada, even though players need a rest. This is the problem he did with Rashford as well. He played him too much. Now he's injured. Do you feel like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has his favourites? Do you think there's a little bit of favouritism going on there? Because Donny van de Beek, I've seen him dominate midfields against Real Madrid in the Champions League. I've seen him play really well, man of the match performances. I know how good this guy is. Do you feel like there's a little bit of a favourites club going on at the club at the moment? And do you feel like that's healthy in regards to United's future?
That's an interesting point. I think what the Spurs game, the 6-1 was a big turning point for this United team where he realised he doesn't trust that back four enough to play a one-holding midfielder, and it was kind of borne out a little bit like that. Also, Eric Bailly started that game and it was obviously a disaster from the start. So two of the biggest question marks I have over the United team, well, three actually. The goalkeeper, which we touched on already, David Hayes, one of the top 5 Man United goalkeepers of all time. Some would probably say top 3. Like he was that good at one point in time, but it's just not working anymore for whatever reason. And you could probably get a dominant centre back in there, and it would empower David Hay, and you might get him back to his best. But I'm just not sure about that. So that's the one concern. Then the centre back, the Lindelof-Maguire partnership isn't going to work long term. They're too similar. There's no pace there, and Solskjaer has also persisted with those two rather than giving the likes of Bailly or Tuanzebe running the team. But Bailly had such a bad game against Tottenham that day that sort of, I think that made Solskjaer's mind up, right? Lindelof-Maguire, my first choice. And also, he determined that Fred McTominay have to play because they need to protect that back four. So to your favourites point there, I think that's the reason those three are always in the team. Plus Maguire, having spent 80 million on him, I don't know what the consensus is among Man United fans about Harry Maguire. I think he is a steadying influence in the team. They way overpaid for him, and that's just the way the market and the Man United tax, where United are always going to have to pay extra. But I think he has improved the team. So that little click of 4 players, the 2 centre backs, the 2 holding midfielders, you're right. I think Solskjaer is he's married to that 4 and it won't change. So that's why I think in the summer he has to go out and sign better players in that position, but they're also his players. So if he goes out and gets Declan Rice and all these centre backs that United are being linked with, there's a new one every day. But if he goes out and identifies one of these pacey centre backs that he can put beside Maguire, that's probably the way it's going to be, because I think he has sort of settled on his best team. And it is a little bit static, in my opinion. There isn't enough flexibility in the personnel, and there isn't enough flexibility in the tactics, where it does seem as if he wants to play robust defensive football, make sure they don't concede easy goals, and then hope that Fernandes or Rashford just pick something out of nothing. And that's not sustainable to win a title in the long run. So you just hope that if they can improve the quality in the team, still be rigid and good defensively, but improve the attacking quality. And if the players that are already there can improve at the rate that Luke Shaw has improved, for example, who's just looked like the best left back in the world for the last couple of months, I think that would bode well for United going forward.
Yeah, spot on. I feel like with the central midfield with McTominay and Fred, I feel like they're doing the job of one player.
Yeah.
I think we need one renowned, specialist CDM there just to do the job, so we can play a little bit more attacking from the central midfield. Because I feel like we're not getting any balls from the midfield to the forwards, and this is the problem at the moment, I feel. And I think we are relying on individual brilliance. I think Fernandez has got us out of trouble a few times. We're not winning games convincingly, 2-1, just like the weekend, 1-0. There's only so long that can last. And with us not winning anything, you can win 1-0 all the way to the end of the season, as long as you're winning trophies. But this team are not winning anything. They're not. I don't know what direction they're going in. We've got a counter-attacking style of football, a one way of playing style of football. When teams sit the low block, we tend to struggle. And I feel like we need investment, but I don't know if we're going to get that with this board. Obviously, we've got the board who, spent a lot of money, the fair dues to them, but I don't think they've made the right decisions. And as you said, whether Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, chooses those players, whether Van der Beek was his type of player, who knows? But we need a good few $100 million spent on that team, and whether the Glazers are going to do that it remains to be seen.
No, I was just going to say it's a small tweak, but I think you're bang on that. Can you imagine if, I don't know if Declan Rice is the player, but I'm just using him as an example of someone you could play in that number 6 position, and he's going to cover that whole area that Fred McTominay do, and that releases Paul Pogba, who might be coming into his last year. I don't know. That's a whole different conversation. But if you can get Pogba and Fernandez as the 2 number 8s, it just transforms the team. Like, it seems like a small tweak, but that would be a huge change, in my opinion, where you've got that extra layer of creativity further up the pitch rather than Pogba. And we saw it against Brighton where he gave the ball away. Like, if he's trying those things in front of his own back four, that's not ideal. If he's trying those things 30 yards further up the pitch, it's a total game changer. And while I do agree United need to spend probably 200 million to get to where they need to go this summer, I think 2 signings, like a good defensive midfielder and a good centre half, be a big boost, and hope that maybe the front players can press on, as we touched on. Otherwise, you are looking at going and getting someone like Erling Haaland in a Robin van Persie-esque way, where just a proven goal scorer that's going to come in and win those games we're talking about, the ones where United are struggling against the low block. If they have a prolific number 9 in there who'll make something out of nothing, that's another route. But I just don't know if that's going to work long term.
Well, if Man City go out and buy Haaland and Grealish,
if City get Haaland, it's all done, isn't it? It's
all done. You might as well pack up. You might as well aim for second place, and that's it. How do you feel about Man City anyway? Do you feel what they're doing is healthy for the Premier League? Obviously, buying players, spending hundreds of millions on a position until they get it right. If they go out and buy Haaland and Grealish, do you see this affecting the league somewhat? The competitiveness of the league, etc.
Yeah, I think if Haaland signs for Man City, that's the worst possible scenario for football generally. Just like, Man City fans will obviously disagree, but it's just, it ends it as a competition where City have these amazing patterns of play. They seem to have settled on a good defense. The goalkeeper, a little bit erratic, seems to make more mistakes than, I think if De Gea was making the amount of mistakes that Ederson's making, there'd be a lot more made of it. But they seem to be a very solid team. And if you add between him and Mbappe, Haaland, probably the most potent striker of the next 10 years, into that team, it just looks like it's all done and dusted. So I prefer to see him go elsewhere, United ideally, but somewhere other than City would be good, just to sort of balance things out a little bit. In terms of the City project, I think everyone's a little bit uncomfortable with it. I think it was thrown at United in the 90s that they're buying the league and all this kind of stuff, but the United's funds were almost built on their own success, where they happened to win the league in 92, 93, when all the cash was coming in through the Premier League deal, and they just kept building on it, buying good players from within the league, Andy Cole, Teddy Sheringham, Dwight York, etc., and just kept building on it. So that was kind of self-sustaining success, whereas Man City have just sort of flipped the script a little bit with this foreign investment. And obviously Chelsea were the precursors to that. Chelsea were just a cup team really before Abramovich came along and made them a force in English football. So it's not great. It's probably, I think for the neutral, we'll probably look at it and be glad that there's extra teams competing for the league, because it's not that long ago where we were looking at it and it was the same 3 and 4 teams every year competing for the title. And Man City are obviously a breath of fresh air in that. Guardiola's football is attractive to certain people. I find it a little bit dull at times, just the relentless possession football. I do like teams who go for the jugular a bit quicker, but that's just my preference. But like, it's hard to argue. It's hard to argue with the football team what he's produced there in terms of De Bruyne. Obviously signed a new contract today, and he's just a joy to watch. Phil Foden's one of the best players in the league, and will be for the next decade, presumably. But you have that unease around their backing, and it's going to come to the fore a bit more with the Qatar World Cup. We've already seen protests around the human rights issues, and I think Man City, I think their ownership structure might be coming under the radar a little bit more. Same for PSG. It's interesting, PSG, we talk about the inflation in the market, but PSG are largely responsible for that, for the deals they did for Neymar and Mbappe, where they deliberately paid extortionate fees for those two players to skew the market in such a way where they know no one else can match those fees. So I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was definitely in the ballpark of 200 million for Neymar all in. And apart from Man City, who else can pay that? So Neymar and Mbappe they're at PSG until PSG themselves decide otherwise. And Man City are in that same position. If they go and buy Haaland for, it's probably going to be 150, 200 million as well. He's there forever. So it's going to be a big summer. I know the COVID has sort of skewed the market itself, and finances aren't quite what they were. And that's why this summer is probably going to shape things for a long time to come.
Yeah, I agree. Being a United fan all my life, obviously, I feel like it's a bit unfair. I mean, congratulations to Man City. They won the lottery, and so did PSG. They won the lottery. But I feel like, teams like Liverpool in the 80s, teams like Arsenal, we built the Premier League during the 90s. And for teams to come along and just get invested and just, live off that success of the Premier League during those times. Alex Ferguson, yeah, he did spend money, but he also had a huge influx of youth players coming through. He trusted in youth, even up until 2012 or 2013 when he won the league, we still had youth players in that team, and we still had the likes of Ryan Giggs still in that team, So I feel like since Alex Ferguson's left, it's become more and more difficult, and United are falling more and more behind Manchester City. Yeah, we're second, but I feel like you can't rely on youth now, because you got to win now, and you need players of, quality players now who are proven now because of the way Man City are going about their business, and I feel that something needs to change. Maybe, a certain amount of players in the youth, in the team from the youth academy. Who knows, it might improve it. It might, encourage teams to play more youth players. But the way Man City are going now, we had Liverpool last season. I feel like that was a one-off. I don't think they're going to do it like they did last season again. They're not playing well this season. And, I just feel like as long as Man City are there spending money, it's just going to be the same old cycle. And as a Man United fan, you feel a little bit, not betrayed, but you feel that's not fair. We've done all that. We built ourselves up into this club, and then you get a club, an ownership who could have took over anyone and brought them to the same position, and it feels a bit out of order, in my opinion. It's not sour grapes, of course, it's good for English football. Well, it's good for them. I don't know if it's good for English football, but, I feel like if they continue spending money, we might get into a Scotland scenario, or even worse, because it might just be one team going for the league every single season. Do you see that happening in the Premier League?
Yeah, it's worrying when you put it on the table like that. I do think Pep Guardiola is very important to the project, though. If he leaves, I think they are in a bit of limbo, as many other teams would be when they lose a long-serving manager. Guardiola's now in his longest spell with one club, which is hard to believe when you consider what he did with Barcelona and Bayern. But he doesn't seem to have any plans to leave. And I do think he is quite important to the whole thing. And if he did leave, there might be a bit of rebuilding to do. But if they do spend money year on year, and they had that little run-in with the financial fair play, and it seemed they were going to be punished with the Champions League ban, and as we all know, that fell fell through the sky and nothing happened there. So they were about to get a slap on the wrist and they didn't. So there's nothing to perturb them from continuing to spend money the way they are at the moment. And I know Guardiola was making comments before the Dortmund game saying City aren't in the running for Haaland this year and that they won't be spending 100 million on a striker. I find that hard to believe. I think if they're in a position to get Haaland or someone of that ilk, they certainly will, and they will continue to do that for years to come. And again, the likes of Jack Grealish, if they can spend big on the continent and also buy the best of the Premier League at the same time with the likes of Jack Grealish, it looks like it'll be sustained success for City. And United are in a good position in the sense that I know it's been 8 years since they won the Premier League title, but they still have that prestige and history and revenue where they've got these commercial projects that bring in big money, and United can compete to a certain degree with Man City for players. But there's that next tier of teams, the likes of Arsenal, who obviously we grew up and they were a powerhouse of English football, and now they're kind of in no man's land a little bit, and the Emirates hasn't quite panned out in terms of being the money spinner they hoped it would be. Spurs have been very unlucky in that they built this brilliant new stadium and it's been empty since it basically opened. So whereas United are still in it for the next couple of years, as are Chelsea, as are Liverpool, they could start to cut adrift now the rest of the Premier League. And that's why there has been talk in recent years about European Super Leagues, where we might need to pool all the teams from Europe together to keep it competitive. And I think that would be the worst possible outcome, where if we lose the domestic leagues, I think football loses a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's talk of the Super League. I was brought up in a town called Leighton. We have a team called Leighton Orient, and the impact on the community that a team like Leighton Orient has, it's priceless, because you have your football team in your community, and that team does a lot of work for the community. And if we lose that, the grassroots football, I think it will just take away the soul from football. It will become more like America in regards to no relegations and no promotions. It'll be a big, huge mistake. But as you said, it's sort of aiming. You can see it happening. You can see it happening with the money in the game and creating a Super League to make it more competitive. Because obviously you've got PSG now in France. Lille are doing well this season, but PSG are going to run away with it in regards to the seasons coming. Obviously, they're going to spend more money. You've got Juventus in Italy. It's starting to head towards that. Bayern Munich in Germany. Do you feel like that will destroy English football in one way? Obviously, we got the English football prides itself on its 4 leagues. You've got the Championship, League 1, League 2, and even the National League. Do you think that will have a bad effect on the clubs in England? And what will be the long-term damage to that if we do have a Super League?
Yeah, I would not be in favour of the Super League for the reasons you outlined there. But at the same time, the money that's coming into the Premier League, for example, there is a trickle-down effect where you see, like, take the Harry Maguire thing, for example, where basically Leicester held United to ransom and said it's 80 million or nothing. And 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that just wouldn't have happened. Leicester would have had to take a good offer for Harry Maguire, a lot less than 80 million or whatever the equivalent was. Like Wayne Rooney, when he joined United for around 30 million, like, I think in the grand scheme of things, Everton probably could have demanded a bit more for Wayne Rooney at the time, but they needed the money. I don't think any club in the Premier League really needs the money anymore. And that means that they have strong players, they have strong squads, and the TV money is such that they have the kind of coffers to back that up. So on one hand, I think certain clubs are happy enough with the way things are going. Kind of, they're happy to finish mid-table and keep things ticking along. But in terms of competitiveness, I know Leicester came out of nowhere and won the league and have sort of built a strong club off the back of that. But it does seem unlikely that anyone's ever going to break through in the way they did in the 90s, where it did feel like every year there was a different team coming up and challenging for the title. I think Norwich went close, didn't they? Newcastle got promoted and under Kevin Keegan went for the title. It's just not realistic. And that's not a lifetime ago. There's people who remember that very vividly. Like, there's players that are, that's a key Premier League turning point. And yet it just seems unthinkable now that something like that could happen. So
we had Blackburn Rovers winning the
yeah,
title, spending money. Newcastle obviously came in the same decade. Then we had Arsenal, and Chelsea as well, of course. It just seems like, it was only 20 years ago now, 25 years ago. But I just feel like, imagine then you had a team like Man United going out and buying Ferdinand and Shearer and Fowler and Henry later in the decade. It just wouldn't be fair on the Premier League teams, because it would just be, they're just going to continue the success. I can imagine any team doing that in the 90s. It would have been difficult for Man United to catch up to even think about winning the league. Let's bring it on to.
No, I was just going to say, I suppose every league has their grievances, like following Bundesliga a little bit. That must be so demoralizing, the way Bayern Munich buy their competitors' best players. Like, at least that doesn't happen in the Premier League, where it's not as if Man City are going to sign Bruno Fernandes in the summer, whereas every year, like, Robert Lewandowski's obviously running the league now, and he came through at Dortmund primarily, and Bayern got him on a free, and there's several other players that's true of between Dortmund and Bayern. But similarly, Upamecano, who was one of the sought-after players coming into this summer, is going to Bayern, leaving Leipzig. So that's another rival that's been broken off. So I know I can see why the Premier League has its drawbacks, but at least that's not happening. At least the teams are able to build their own squads and duke it out that way.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine being a Dortmund fan. It must be so frustrating. You feel like you got a really good side. Next season, they all go to Bayern Munich. You start again, So it must be really frustrating for them, to be honest with you, and Leipzig as well, because Leipzig were doing really well. They are doing really well. Yeah, Upamecano looks like he's off to.
He's going to Bayern. Yeah,
I would have loved him at United, to be honest with you. In regards to United, do you feel like what positions would you say need the most attention in regards to signings? Obviously, you said centre back earlier and the CDM. Do you feel like a 40-goal a season striker would be ideal?
Yeah, it's funny. In an ideal world, that would be the one where you'd think United could go out and compete for the likes of Haaland. But short of that, like, I think United are realistically competing in the next tier of players. And does Jadon Sancho fall into that bracket? But someone like that, where he won't be 120 million this summer, given that he's been out of form and injured and mightn't make the England Euro squad. So United might have actually played their hand quite well on that transfer. But if Sancho came in and powered up that right-hand side and gave Greenwood license to play through the middle, that might be a better course of action than going in and getting a B-level number 9. Like, is there anybody that jumps to mind that you'd think, right, that's an automatic player that's going to improve the team? Like, we had Lukaku for a couple of years, and he would fall into that bracket. Not is he world class? He probably is, like a B+ player, but he's not Erling Haaland level or Mbappe level. So United have had that experiment and it didn't work out. So I think Solskjaer, for the time being, has settled on this sort of fluid interchange up front, and he's probably going to roll with that. If Haaland was available, obviously we would go and pull the trigger for that. But no, a good robust central defensive midfielder would be good, and a pacey centre back. I think those are probably the two areas that need to be addressed. And then, does he have faith that Amad Diallo is going to progress next season to a point where he's pushing for a place in the first team? I'm not sure. Jesse Lingard's lighting it up for West Ham, but again, I'm not sure if he's the solution either. So if there were 3 positions that I think United should probably try and fill, it would be centre half, central defensive midfield, and right side of attack.
Yeah, you echo my thoughts exactly. Bringing it on to Thursday, we've got Granada. Unknown, really, for United. I know they're a defensive side, got a good defence. I don't know too much about Granada. If United do the unthinkable and get knocked out of the Europa League, where does that leave Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's future? Do you think that will be enough is enough, and we should look at new options in regards to managerial position?
I think it would be. He could have no complaints. I don't think, if United decided, right, you've done a good job, but if we need a manager to take us to the next level, this is Ed Wood we're talking, if they were having a meeting, he probably knows in his heart of hearts that if Solskjaer can't get the job done this summer, they're probably going to have to go and get a top class manager. I don't know who that manager is realistically. Are you talking Nagelsmann or someone like that? Obviously, Pochettino's off the table now, but if Solskjaer wins the Europa League, it does give him a bit of impetus to go into next season and sort of build on that. But I think that an interesting parallel is the Brendan Rodgers Liverpool, where Brendan Rodgers built a good Liverpool team. They should have won the league. It was quite unbelievable how they managed to mess it up. But that was effectively a league-winning team he put together, and then it just didn't. He just couldn't quite build on it. I think they sacked him in the November or December of the following season because Klopp was available, brought Klopp in, and the rest is history. They've built a generationally good team there. I think that's realistically where Solskjaer's at. He might be United's Brendan Rodgers, where he has improved them. He's cleared out the dead wood and got the thing pointing in the right direction, but they might need that world-class manager to come in. I'm just not sure who that is. If a brilliant candidate becomes available, they probably will need to make a move. I was never sure. I don't know what you thought about Pochettino. I was never sure he was the man to do that. So I don't know who that manager is going to be or who's being talked about. But for the moment, I think they should probably stick with Solskjaer and hope that he can deliver the silverware that might, as we said, keep the fans, certain sectors of the fans off his back, because it turns quite quickly. Like United, the Leicester performance was very disappointing, and I think he rightfully came in for criticism after that. But if they do win the Europa League, it'll all turn back around and everyone will be in favour of him again. So it turns a lot quicker than it used to, and I think he's wary of that. And it's important that, as you said, the unthinkable, if they get knocked out by Granada, that would be a bit of a humiliation, I think, for United, given that they've overcome a tough tie against Sociedad and Milan. To fall at this hurdle would be quite embarrassing, I'd say.
And you always have to be careful what you wish for, because Pochettino's not exactly lighting it up in France at the moment. He's got the team there, and he isn't doing as well as everyone thought he would do. You have to be careful what you wish for in regards to managers, because Pochettino was good. He didn't spend much money at Tottenham. He got into the Champions League final. Again, he hasn't won anything. That's the problem with it. In regards to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, there's a lot of nostalgia at United. Obviously, we've got a lot of history. We love our ex-players. But, there needs to be a time when we're a little bit more ruthless. If he doesn't win the Europa League this season, I'll be very disappointed, because, that'll be how long now? 4 seasons without a trophy, something like that, which will be it's unthinkable. And you have to think about United as an elite club, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid. If they went 4 years without a trophy, what will happen? There'd be, riots, So, it's just... I feel like we're too nostalgic in regards to our players. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is rightly a legend. I feel like the hate towards him is unacceptable. I feel like we should give him to the end of the season, see where we are. And if we ain't got a trophy, then it's disappointing. We might have to look at, different options. But as you said, there's not many managers out there. Nagelsmann, I like Nagelsmann. There's obviously the Ajax manager there as well, who I like as well. So... yeah, I totally agree. We stick to the end of the season. We see how it goes. He needs the backing of the board, though, I feel. He needs Glazers on his side. He needs to get the players that he wants, because at the moment we're a few $100 million short of a title challenging side. We came close this season for a week, but I don't see it getting any better unless we spend a few $100 million.
Yeah, and non-Man United fans probably listen to United fans or ex-players saying, "Oh, they need to spend 200 million or 300 million," and think United have spent loads of money already. But they've signed bad players. They've like Alexis Sanchez. Granted, that was a free transfer, but the wages, United are still taking a big hit on that, and the names roll off the tongue in terms of Di Maria and Marcus Rojo. They're just doomed to failure from the start. United need to spend. They need to improve the first 11, as we were saying at the start. That's the key. The 200 million that they spend could be enough to be the final word on it if they can sign the right players. It's if they waste another 200 or 300 million, you just have no sympathy with it, because they've had enough bites at the cherry at this stage. The new football directorship that they've got going on there with Fletcher and John Marta, I think it's a little bit... it leaves a lot to be desired, I would say. I'm not sure if it was the
nostalgic
appointment.
again, nostalgia.
Yeah.
You know,
those aren't the appointments United fans were hoping for. I don't think where United need the best in class, as Gary Neville says. They should have been going to get Edwin van der Sar from Ajax or someone like that. And you just worry that why is he not being appointed, or why is someone of that ilk not coming in there? Is there a sense that Woodward still wants final say? And he's proven, as we touched on there by naming a couple of the players, that he hasn't got the footballing acumen to make big decisions or close the correct transfer deals. And the Glazers, obviously, a long-running issue for 15 years or more at this stage, where United are never going to be where they should be when they've got that sort of ownership, where the best interests of the club aren't with the owners. Like their number one concern is getting Champions League football, spending just about enough to keep United competitive, and getting their dividends at the end of it. And like that's no way to run a business. It's no way to run a football club. So I think that's always going to hold United back. But what they can do is control the controllables, appoint the right people in charge of transfers, in charge of the academy, in charge of recruitment, have the best manager available, and have the best squad available. And I don't think you can say with certainty that any of those areas are where they should be. And I think time will tell. This summer, as we said already, is massive. And how they end this season is massive. And it will kind of determine how things will be for the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's spot on. Well, that rounds it off perfectly. Thank you, Ronan, for joining me today. It's been a good chat. And hopefully we win tomorrow and on our way to a trophy finally.
Nice one, Sal. Anytime. Thanks a million.